just did that just now. Thank you. And you said the new trust name. So we're just updating that one too. I've not propagated on the machine we're presenting from. So I got to do that.
Thomas, you know the document in rats where the set of types for testing the firmware update? It's like, so we had a milestone about sorting out between suit and rats where we were going to do the attestation for firmware updates. The decision was to do that in rats. Do you know what document that's being done in? By chance?
It's in Rats Eat, isn't it?
Like which document?
Eat.
Is it in the eat? Is it in
Thought
the
so.
if you put eat? E is rats.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Maybe you put it together. That's eat.
But there's a way to carry a suit report as an eat. I thought was what we concluded.
You thought correctly.
One of these. I can either do this or power.
Oh, this is Ethernet.
Yeah.
Why do you need Ethernet?
I don't. I need to project. Well, you want to project. So I got all the slides
But
up here now.
my point is, Ethernet's not the thing you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Is there a different thing?
There's got to be an HDMI thing.
Well, the only thing that I can plug into here right now is without going into my docking station. Unless you can project. I got all the slides on here now, but I can only project via USB-C.
We have to do it through that tracker?
Yeah.
The app now, right?
We do it through this.
When I asked the AV people, they said it's only for view. You don't project the slides today. You do that from your laptop.
So they've changed it?
I'm just telling you what she told me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we're getting transcribed. So
But that is going to the Ethernet.
okay. Well, that's an easy way to verify that. I'm gonna plug in this, and see if I get a network connection.
Yeah, I have configured it.
Comparing before and after.
Well, doing that didn't change that. When you plugged it in, nothing over there changed.
Yeah, right. Well,
No.
then I don't know how to project.
This is you, right? No, that's
No,
this.
I don't have anything that's down there. Do I need to go find
It's got to
somebody?
be through this. Because look, there's that cable.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm thinking they were saying don't plug in anything in.
yes.
Join the Meetecho from here and project into the session and declare yourself as a presenter. That's my guess.
That could be. Okay, well, we need to join
Yeah,
for the
For
reasons
yeah.
anyway.
Yep. I was presenting for pretty much all of the last session in this room, and so I haven't had time to do anything other than
I
I was the presenter for 3 of the 4 talks in the last session.
Chairs actually transcribing the conversation.
Hey guys. Thank you, Roman.
don't think there's a button.
If there's somebody that's already chaired a session, knows how to get video projected, and is an expert on that, if they want to come up here, we would
Appreciate it.
take some help.
Trying to just show me content. If you echo, it's not.
I'm trying to make sure I'm doing it right. So no, I'm not yet.
So any slides?
There's a way to share presentation, share preloaded slides. So that one.
It just changed, so clearly it's working.
While we're doing that, can we get a volunteer to help us with?
All you do is look at it.
Tell you what, Dave, I'll do it.
Thank you.
So who else is helping me?
Yeah, we're here in person. So don't get to do this that often.
All right, everyone. Welcome to SUIT. Let's get started. So by now you've probably seen this once or twice. This is the note well. Please let us know if you have any questions. A few additional notes about the note well. Please give them a quick look. So there's a change this time in how blue sheets are managed. So if you're in person, we'll be passing around this QR code. Please use that to register with the blue sheets. If you're remote, that'll happen automatically when you join on Meet Echo. I believe if you're in the room and you also join on Meet Echo, you'll be also signing up with the blue sheets. We have a note taker. Thank you. If you want to join us on Meet Echo or Etherpad, you can see the links up here. We have a pretty full agenda today. We'll start with talking through the hackathon, discuss some of our current active drafts. Oops.
Oh,
Can't
sorry.
advance.
Go ahead. I missed you.
And if we have some time at the end, we'll be able to have some open discussion. I doubt we will because it's going to be a pretty full time this time. Any agenda bashing? I'd like to save a few minutes at the end for us to go over our current milestones. We have some that are out of date that we need to update. I've proposed a few new milestones. So I'd like to come back and maybe save 10 minutes at the end to go over that quickly if we can. If not, we'll cover it on the mailing list. So with that, I think we want to start with the hackathon summary. Who's doing that?
I'm selecting that one.
It's Ken.
Where is it down here? It doesn't show up as the pre-shared ones, and so I have to share my own screen then. Yep.
Hi, I'm Ken Takayama from Japan. Oh, so I did hackathon maybe only maybe with Lawrence and Hannes, and yeah, I have to wait until the slide be shown.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just this slide is over. Yeah, and So I've updated the libc suit implementation, and it can process and encode suit manifest. And it is written in C language because I'm old-fashioned programmer, so I can only code C programs. So just joking, yeah. And now it support suit encrypted payloads. It was all, called also firmware encryption draft, and the feature, the news feature is ephemeral static ECDH encryption. So the firmware author encrypts and send it to the device with encryption, and the key is exchanged in the suit manifest. So the device can correct some public key and public key of author and some similar keys, and it is wrapped into AES key wrap. So the only need for a firmware author, so firmware author is the device's public key. So he can encrypt with it, and the device can decrypt it. And it is submitted to this draft. So maybe you can see the example in the next session and next presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions? All right, thanks.
Yep.
So next up, we have a discussion of the suit manifest. Hannes, are you doing that one, or is Brendan doing that?
Yeah, I can say a few words about this this document, if that's okay. Next slide.
Who's got the clicker?
Do you have the clicker?
Or just push the button. Yeah, thanks Roman for doing the detailed review. I know it's a long document, so you really read through it carefully. I can tell it from the review. Like an unbelievable number of review comments. Took me some time to create the PR. The PR hasn't been folded into the draft yet, or merged into the draft yet, to submit version 23, because there are still some issues sort of that need to be resolved. In time for the deadline, I created the list in the GitHub. We have the separate repository for this document, and in the issue list, I added those issues which I couldn't address right away. So if I go next slide, here you see like 23 open issues, and I'm sure my co-authors are happy to work with me in resolving those. Was a little bit overwhelmed, to put it mildly. I don't want to go through all of them. I think they have all the same sort of spirit. You read through it, and there were some questions and clarifications needed, where sometimes the language wasn't as crisp and clear as you assumed it to be. So I don't think there wasn't any major blocker, but it was just like, yeah, maybe a little bit too relaxed writing style, I would say.
Yeah, Hannes, so Roman, the AD that reviewed that, I completely kind of agree. I didn't see anything show-stopping in there. Again, it's just a long, complicated document, as you would expect for something this important and this kind of sweeping. And most of the things I had were around just like, let's tighten it up, let's make it consistent across all the things we specified.
Yeah. Yeah, you even went through the document and checked it against the requirements and the security considerations of the documents we wrote earlier. Of course, like we are like politicians, once we got something published, we immediately forget what we wrote. we promise all sort of things in requirements and security goals, and then when we come to the solution, we write something totally different, and you went back and checked it. and of course found that there's some inconsistency. But yeah, so there's it's a long list, and we'll have to go through those in like you put on the milestones in August. We'll have to address those. Yeah, I looked through it again yesterday, and there was nothing really I wanted to sort of like. There's nothing really to discuss for the group. Just improve the language.
Okay. And you're sure that's going to stay that way?
You mean we plan to cut down the issue list, right?
Okay.
Ideally to 0.
Do we need to set up some time to talk at interim to work through anything, or?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to schedule an interim meeting, not just for this document, just as a sort of as a milestone to see whether we actually making progress on this, and whether there are some issues that weren't working group time.
Yeah.
For the rest of the group to discuss. On this one, I don't expect it to be, but maybe on some of the other documents that are also in either working group last call or pretty close to it.
Okay.
I don't know, Brendan, do you have anything to say on this? If Brendan is online?
Brandon is online.
Okay.
Yes, I think it would be a good idea to have an interim.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're shooting for is maybe to try to wrap things up by November. So I think that'll help us make good progress towards that goal.
Yeah, I'd like to get it wrapped up as well. So absolutely, let's get some interims. Let's get this done.
Perfect. Thank you.
What's the next presentation? Trust domains. Okay.
Next up, we have trust domains. Is that Brendan? No, it's Ken. You still have it.
Yep.
It's on the corner.
Okay, yeah. Ken Takayama again, and yep. I want to explain about the current status of this draft. Since IETF 116, there is no functional modification, but there are a lot of how can I say that, editorial fixes in this on this document. Oh. Oh, okay. And I added 3 SUIT manifest examples, and now we are sophisticating the text in the document. And yeah, and we are going to add some use case explanations. Yep. First example is here, and this is key delegation chain. Maybe some of you know about X509 PKI. No. Yeah. So for example, there are two authorities. That one is the firmware author, and the other one is SUIT manifest creator. So the firmware also want to delegate to sign the SUIT manifest to another party. So the author delegates the how can I say that? Delegates the right to sign the SUIT manifest. And so with this case, this public key is the delegated parties one. So and the original author signs with this public key. So with this public key, the how can I say, delegated party can create a SUIT manifest, and it can be trusted by the device. And there is also another use case for where, how can I say that, like PKI. So the long-term trust anchor, for example, so-called certificate authority like that. Yeah. So create the public, the signing key, and create this key delegation chain part. And so, and after that, trust anchor delegates to the suit manifest signer. So it's like so there are some use cases for this function. And another example is here. So this is the main feature, I think, of this document. It is process dependency. For example, there are two manifests, and one dependent manifest refers another dependency manifest, and the dependent manifest have to identify the dependency one. So there is a suit digest of dependency manifest, and it with this the condition dependency integrity, the manifest processor checks the validity and integrity of the dependency manifest, and then triggers the dependency manifest, for example, install section or validate section. And it can be combined into so they can be combined into one manifest. So I said that there were two manifests, but the dependent manifest can contain can integrate dependency one into so in the bottom of the suit manifest. So maybe some can read these bytes. It is actually a suit manifest, and it is hex stamped. Yeah, so maybe custom can read this. Yeah. So as I said, we are sophisticated our draft. There were a lot of fixes. Some were caused by Dave's review comment. Yeah, and I found some. So we found some bugs in CDDL. So we fixed it, and now we are fixing IANA consideration section. So because there are some manners to requesting IANA for registering some numbers. So now we are tackling with this. And several days ago, Hannes raised this issue, but I'm sorry, but I couldn't complete this one. And so the issue was there is no introduction to explain the use case in this draft. So actually, indeed, there are some use cases, but it is scattered into the draft. So we have to summarize it up into introduction section. Yeah, so we will do this soon. So yeah, the draft is last call. So yeah, reviewers welcome. So please comment and provide some feedbacks on us. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm the document shepherd for this one. So let me ask you a question or two. Since we'd like to, I think our deadline for working group last call, we're now past that. I think we extended it by a week to end roughly as of like right now during this meeting here. I think so far, if I remember right, besides the authors, Brennan and Ken, I think I've seen comments from Hannes and from Russ and from myself. I don't remember if anybody else has commented there, but Michael Richardson. Yeah, thank you. Are there other people that plan on reviewing it that haven't yet we could rope you into? In other words, do we expect other comments to come in before the end of the week? If so, great. I'm looking for any volunteers that might still want to review stuff this week. I'm doing my document shepherd write-up, and one of the questions is, is this a consensus among a small number of people or a bunch of people or whatever? So anybody else want to volunteer to review this one within the next couple days? I see, David, you're trying to be arm twisted, so... All right, great, gotcha. Thank you, David. If you can, if there's any chance you could review it by the end of the week, let's say Saturday or whatever, that would be much appreciated. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you in advance.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Yep. Next up, we have update management. Hannes? No? Brendan?
Brennan?
Probably me.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot to say about this one.
You want to
Next
turn on your
slide,
video,
please.
Brennan?
Oh, yeah, I have it turned off due to bandwidth, but let's see how we do here. Right, so there's not a huge amount to say about this one. Next slide, please. It has in fact been parked since the last meeting. I haven't had any review comments, and I haven't done any more on it as of yet. I'd like to know if there's any more interest in getting this one done. It would be, the focus has been on the others because of the additional stakeholders that they have. So if there's any interest in getting this done or helping, that would be very welcome. Also, reviews are welcome. So beyond that, are we done? I guess that's the question to the working group.
All right, so let's talk about update management for update management.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Chris, did you have a comment?
Just we were trying to get this ready for last call, and I'm not hearing Brendan say it is.
Right. I'm asking if there is any more commentary on it because I think it is essentially done.
Right. If we're not hearing there's any more work to do, it sounds like it might be.
Brennan, you're not aware of any open issues that haven't already been addressed, is that correct?
I will have to go through it again, but I think it's, yeah, I don't think there's any open issues. This one has not garnered a lot of attention, to be honest, compared to the others.
Okay. So we can always do a working group last call. Now we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think we should.
All right, let's wait a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could start it now and just have it end.
Make sure, start it now, and we'll have it go for 3 weeks.
But David, you're not allowed to review the other one until you review the trust domains.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Brendan.
No problem.
We'll kick that off. All right. Up next, we have firmware encryption.
Okay. Next slide.
You got the clicker, right?
Okay, quick overview again. We've actually spent a fair amount of time on this topic and in this document since the last IETF meeting, and also before, probably more than we ever thought we would be. So the document focuses on encryption of firmware. That was the initial scope. Then we extended it to software with the work on deep, and then also in deep with the encryption of configuration data. So it's quite a broad focus, but it still relies on the SUIT manifest to carry that metadata. It covers the 2 cases, single sender, single recipient, but also the single sender, multiple recipients. There are 2 content key distribution mechanisms supported, symmetric key base with AES key wrap and the ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman. Prior to the ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman, we used HBKE, but we sort of replaced that early this year. What was it, late last year? We have 2. Yeah. There are 2 flexible deployment models, specifically on the extremes. One is the author signs the firmware and of course, or the manifest, and indirectly the firmware, and encrypts the payload. So in that case, the author needs to know who the recipients are, obviously, because, for example, with ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman, it needs to know the public keys of the recipients. Or in the other case, the author delegates the encryption to another party, the distribution system, which has to know the public keys of the recipients. And in that case, that character is not properly displayed. It uses, supposed to indicate that there's a reference to the suit multiple trust domains document that was just presented, and it covers specifically that case. Ken talked about this with the dependencies, and that's the examples that have been added, which was also the work at the hackathon. Okay, so a couple of different activities aligned. So we made a couple of updates to the document since the last IETF meeting. One was to improve readability. So the main body of the document changed quite a bit to just improve that readability. We still had one functionality in there, the CAC verification, which was a leftover from a change we made prior to IETF 117 in the way how we encapsulated or where we positioned the encryption information. We previously had that in the envelope, and now we moved that into the manifest, which required this change of the using the multiple trust domains document. We have to actually include the examples. We did some prototyping work with Lawrence, which was continued at this hackathon to work on DCOSI, and there's the link to the repository so you can actually run the stuff yourself. We also switched from a 3-layer structure, which is supported by COSI for the ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman, to a 2-layer structure, which Lawrence sort of found in the appendix, which I think is better in line with, for example, AES key wrap and in general with the rest of COSI. So I think that was a good change. And we also updated the context information structure, which was something that led to some discussion on the mailing list, and there's more information on that in a subsequent slides. Okay, namely the next slide. So this is what we had or have in the submitted version of the document. So this is on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side of what you see here on the screen is this KDF structure, context structure from the COSI specification, which is supposed to be incorporated into the key derivation function to provide this binding to the context, and has this party info sender for this, or the party info for the sender, for the recipient, and a couple of other information elements. And what we included here was the hash of the public key of the sender, the hash of the public key of the recipient, the algorithm information, and the context of the protocol we are using this in. In this case, it's just a string suit payload encryption. We had a different structure prior to this version of the document, which found some resistance because we included the hash of the encrypted payload as well to bind it to that. But it's complicated to implement, and it wasn't quite clear what the benefit actually is. So we had, I looked around on what other people were doing, and the approach of what information to put into that structure for different uses of the ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman with COSI was quite mixed. Here, 2 examples with KeyMint. That's a protocol from Google, which uses the public keys of the sender and recipients. DITCOM is some blockchain DIT technology, or this verifiable credential technology, and they actually using the authentication tag of the AED cipher as input to the context information structure, so a somewhat unusual approach. And but also more importantly, the working LAMs, and Russ updated us on that sort of recent developments, and they are using the algorithm information and optionally user supplied data, but the sender and recipient identity is not used. And of course, we want to align. We want to have a kind of a same design approach across the different groups in the IETF when it comes to the same information. So I think the right approach, which is what I'm going to suggest in the next slide, is to switch exactly to that. But Mike, do you want to say something?
Sorry, I'm struggling with the app. Mike Ellsworth, question for Russ. Which LAMPS document is this referring to?
ChemRI.
Yeah, I should have included that here. Sorry. I will update the slides or put it into the meeting minutes. So this is the proposal, and as I just mentioned, like for the party info sender and recipient, the idea is not to include the hash of the public key, which is what we have there today, but instead include basically B string zeros, size 0, which I call here null or nil. But then for the yeah.
Could you use the mic?
Okay, so it would be literally the.
This David Brown. It is at least the ones we've seen. It is a 3-element array of 3 CBOR null values, not
Okay.
a B string that's 0.
Okay, so it's not like the other, which is a B string size 0. Okay. Okay, it's an optional parameter. Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure it's an optional parameter. It's just an array of size 1. But anyway, we'll look at the details. And we also noticed in a discussion that we had a different understanding of what goes into the algorithm info. So in this case, if you look at the KDF context structure here, there's the algorithm ID field, which is an integer. There we would put the AES key wrap in there, which is what the recipient structure contains. And then for the data length, key data length field, it would be the length of that AES key wrap. And the subpub info, the protected header field, contains the ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman key wrap identifier. In this case, this would be the value -29 in this example. And it will still contain the protocol context identifier with the SUIT payload encryption. And I think that structure should make it fairly easy from an implementation point of view. And we have the API already in DCOSI, thanks to Lawrence, to actually produce meaningful examples that can be actually verified. Okay. So this is the proposal. I hope there are no objections to that. But of course, it's something to think about.
We'll find out at last call.
Yeah. So this is then the 2-layer structure on how this looks like. So the blue box indicates the recipient. The recipient, there could be multiple recipients, as I mentioned at the overview. There's the content encryption layer, which in this case has the encrypted firmware embedded into the structure. It could also be detached. Yeah. And then if Ken prepared at the hackathon a complete example, which I wanted to show you here to just give you a sort of a complete flavor of this, and I color coded it so it's actually understandable. So I know there's a lot of details, but just look at the boxes. So the red box is the authentication wrapper, which is essentially the digital signature, the COSI signature, covering the digest of the manifest, which is the green box. The manifest is the green box. So you see the digest field. It contains the digest over that green box, and then just a regular COSI signature mechanism. Okay, so that's the first part of the whole story. The second part is again here the red box indicates what I had shown previously. This is the discussed ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman with the encryption and the recipient, the 2-layer structure, which I just presented. And then the green parts are the directives in the additional directive or directives in the specification that we added to include the necessary information so that the manifest knows what to do to decrypt and then write it. In this case, this is a directive write. There's also a directive copy in the document to illustrate on where to write the resulting plain text. So I hope that that makes it clear. It's a little bit of CBOR diagnostic notations, which may look confusing. Okay. So what are the next steps? So obviously, I would like to update the context infrastructure if there are no objections. With that structure, we have to update the code, recompute the example, create a full version of the example to have it included, just like the one I have shown on the screen, and include that in the document. So obviously you have to do that. And that's sort of the link to Ken's repository, which he had just been talking about as part of the hackathon progress report. And then I think this is ready for publication.
How long is that going to take?
So I think that would be, unless there are objections, the update to the context infrastructure, I believe is minor. And so we need to axe out a few lines of code. So that should be done in the next 2 weeks. Brendan.
Hi, I just want to bring up, as I mentioned on the mailing list previously, there is a trade-off that is present in the current version of the firmware encryption document. The trade-off is that the author must choose between one of two distribution models, both of which have some pretty significant downsides. The first option is that the author takes on the responsibility of knowing every single device, and then they're able to sign each possible version, or each possible encryption key rather. The second, so that's one substantial trade-off. Most authors aren't going to want to do that. So then the next option is that they can delegate that to a distribution mechanism. There's two different delegation mechanisms. The first delegation mechanism just hands the signing key effectively over to the distributor. This distributor then gains effective de facto code signing authority over the devices, and the author loses the repudiation effectively of code running on devices. Then the next option is that the distributor creates a second manifest that contains only the encryption information, and then overrides what's in the author's manifest. And that gives you sort of the best of both worlds, except with the added complexity of now handling multiple manifests. The original method that we picked for this required a key distribution mechanism that doesn't exist in COSI yet, which is presumably the biggest single reason not to do it the way that we previously did. And it really, I think that key distribution mechanism does belong in COSI, and maybe that's something we need to pursue. But notwithstanding that, with the methods that we have here, we do have some pretty substantial trade-offs for people to understand. And there's some explanatory text that we added to this draft prior to publication to just detail that. But just for the sake of the update, I think it's important to understand the trade-offs that are here.
Yeah, in response to your PR, I created more text, which led to this rewrite, sort of the first bullet, improved wording for better readability. I should have probably said that specifically that section that explains that trade-off. I tried to make that more clear to sort of summarize what you just repeated. Yeah, that's the decision the author needs to make.
weeks.
2
and
weeks?
So basically, I think we're proposing that we'll do working group last call on this one when working group last call on the previous one ends. And because that's about the same time. So 3 weeks from now, we'll see this one.
Yeah. The only gating thing is really if someone is objecting the approach for the context information structure, then we have to go back to the drawing board on that one.
So with this draft, other than the issues that have already been identified, are there any other concerns that need to be addressed before we move forward with publication?
Before working group last call.
All right, so it sounds like we have a plan. Thank you. Next up, we have suit report, which I believe is also Brendan.
Next slide, please. This is another reasonably short discussion. So there's some changes to the EAT type recommendation. I've added some notes on transforming a suit report in the verifier and expanded some IANA considerations. Next slide, please. So essentially what's happened here is I think I may have misunderstood the EAT MESRES when I originally put that in there. The suit report is effectively a form of software measurement. So I don't think that using a measurement result was the right choice. We will have to go back, I suppose, and check with the RATS working group on this, but I'm fairly confident that this is the correct usage now. So I'm recommending that we use a EAT measurement as the recommended way of embedding in an EAT token. The previous suggestion, as I said, was to use a measurement result, which I don't think is correct. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to highlight, and this is some new text in the draft, is that suit reports are a measurement, but what they are effectively is a procedural record. So they record what the manifest processor has done as it goes through and processes the manifest. So a verifier that has an adequate amount of information should be able to convert a suit report to a more conventional measurement report. And this is the key reason that I think the measurement element of EAT makes more sense than the MESRES, because really what's going on here is that the verifier converts the suit report from a measurement into a measurement result. Now, to do that, what the verifier needs is the suit report and all referenced manifests. Can then go through and comparing the suit report to the manifests it has, it's able to reproduce all of the measurements that would have been accepted by the processor. And then it can inject those into an EAT MESRES and include that in the EAT token that it creates. So I've added text to that effect in the suit report draft. And that is all there is at the moment. I think that does deal with the outstanding issues in the suit report draft.
So this is Dave Thaler, just verifying MESRES. I was just checking the EAT specification. There's a couple of EAT folks in the room. I mean, I'm here, Ned's here, and I don't know who else is here from. Yeah, Lawrence is here. MESRES is designed, if I understand right, for attestation results as opposed to evidence. And we're saying, yeah,
exactly.
Lawrence is nodding. And suit report is more belonging in evidence, not attestation reports. And so that's why MESRES is the wrong thing for this.
Exactly, yep. Sounds like we're all on the same page. Excellent.
Yeah, I saw vigorous nods from Lawrence back there. So.
Good. So with that correction, I don't think there was anything else that needed to be done. The IANA considerations were some minor cleanup and Yeah, just a little bit of cleanup. I think that this should be ready for last call.
Any concerns
Without
with
my
that?
other author here to agree with me.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we'll confirm with them and then start a working group last call.
Yep.
Thank you.
Make sure the note taker is capturing which things are already ready for working group last call and which ones need another update, because I think we're saying the current version is ready for working group last call on this one, that we don't need an update as opposed to some of the other ones. So just make sure the minute takers can capture which is which for each of these documents we're going through. Yeah, because a lot of these on the agenda say get ready for working group last call. And we're saying we think this one is ready now.
All right. Next up, we have Suit and Mud.
Okay, this one's, again, really simple. I've got one slide for you. Next slide, please. It's already in working group last call, so that side of it's already taken care of. There's been a few minor editorial changes, and we've added this blocking dependency on the ISOBI COSI key thumbprint. So I think that really there's nothing left to add to that. I don't think there are any other outstanding issues. So that, if I remember right, the working group last call is supposed to end on this, and that should be it.
So this is Dave there. Can somebody talk about what's the status of ISOBI COSI key thumbprint? I think it was on the agenda for the COSI working group this week, but it's not a call for adoption, is what Russ is saying.
Call for adoption, yeah.
Okay. So this
Actually,
may be a significant delay depending on how long COSI takes after adoption before it gets published. And so we'd be sitting there with a hanging reference for a long period of time. My recollection is this is not one of the documents that TEEP is blocked on. And so this doesn't
That's
block
correct.
anything other than itself, as my understanding. There's nothing that depends inbound onto this document.
That's right. And I think the decision to take a reference on the COSI key thumbprint draft was more of a philosophical one than anything else, as far as I can tell. Just because that means that you stick with CBOR throughout rather than having a dependency on DIR encoding for public keys.
So I just wanted to repeat, the chairs were just verifying, because what's on the agenda page is now out of date because the same document was previously depended on by the firmware encryption one, but the point upon us talking about where the key hash used to be embedded and that changed to null, that removes that dependency. That was the point of doing that, is to remove the dependency on this same document. So, cool.
Yep. And it was just presented in the COSI group. Isobet-san gave that presentation. And the good thing is the call for adoption is over already. So the chairs could actually call consensus on that already. I've only seen positive feedback on that document. And prior to the meeting, there were no open issues, but Brendan requested a change, and now it's but the deep protocol has a dependency on this document as well.
And we will talk about that tomorrow on the agenda for TEEP.
All right, Brendan, anything else?
No, I believe that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think last up we have Suit MTI. Who is presenting this one?
Yeah, I don't think Akira is here.
Akira's online.
Oh, I've lost it again.
Well, not. Brendan, do you want to step in on this?
Yeah, my apologies. I made the mistake of turning off my video and then a moment later attempting to turn it back on again. Next slide, please. So I've added Oh, that's an old one. Whoops. Okay, yeah, that definitely happened, but that was for 116. Next, please. Wonder if I've given you the wrong slide deck. That's all right. Never mind. So yes,
if you want, you can come back in 10 minutes with a new slide deck if we want to do the.
Yeah, we can talk about milestones.
Sorry, if you
Yeah,
sent us the
sure.
wrong
That
slides,
works.
if this is the
I've sent
116
you the
slide.
wrong slides. That's what's happened. Yep.
I'm gonna stop sharing and we'll let you talk, and I'll watch my.
Can we switch back to the milestone slide by chance? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, so Roman was kind enough to remind us that our milestones were drastically out of date. In fact, we had a few that were about adopting drafts that have been adopted for a while. So apologies on that one. But basically, based on today's conversation, I'm proposing that we update our milestones to shoot for the next IETF meeting to wrap up most of these drafts. I haven't heard anything in our discussions today that would lead me to think that that isn't doable. I think what we're probably thinking about is having a interim meeting, maybe the second week of September. That'll give us an opportunity to talk about any issues that come up in working group last call on a few of the drafts that we've talked about today. It'll allow us to identify whatever work needs to be done ahead of the next IETF to get things wrapped up, and we should be basically talking about publication at the next IETF. I also noted we need updates to the suit manifest based on Roman's comments. We heard a commitment from the authors that they could do that in the next couple of weeks, so that'll allow us to meet the August milestone for that. And we didn't have a milestone for MTI, which I think we can also get done in the same November timeframe. So any concerns with these updated milestones? Roman, the last two we still need to submit, but otherwise it's updating the existing ones.
So
split it out of the other document.
yeah, it was split out of the other doc. Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah. And so the intent is to not be running a bunch of working group last calls in parallel, but to be running in series. So one ends, the next one begins, and the hope is that we could get through multiple last calls between now and mid-September. And so we can report on the results of working group last call for the ones that still need working group last call. That's the hope.
Indeed.
And so my hope, what I would argue for is that November is the last time we need to schedule a slot. Yeah, I'm saying I'm being optimistic here. It says we should shoot and push authors to update stuff.
It's also possible IESG.
IETF last call.
Yeah.
Oh, IETF last call. Yeah, IETF last call. That's right.
All right. Well, thank you. So we'll Roman, we'll work to get these milestones updated. Thank you.
So let's back to Brendan.
Okay.
Do we have slides?
I don't know. Do we have slides? Brendan, do you have updated slides?
I'll tweak that for
Okay.
the record.
So I've discovered the reason you have the wrong slides. It's because there is nothing new to report on suit MTI. So the updates to it are, no, there aren't any. What's going on is that it, I think, has its open issues resolved. There is a dependency there is a dependency, I believe. Now, what did we do? No, we've gone back to, we've dropped Cozy HPKE because that seems to be stalled. We are holding off putting in anything related to the new PQC algorithms because we don't have standards for them yet. So we just have HSS LMS. We did add a set of reverse direction reverse direction algorithms so that the suit report could have its own set of protections. And that's about it. I believe those were the open issues. So I think that it should be closed now.
So it is also ready.
In other words, I think we are, as far as I understand, our open issues are closed and we are ready to move to the next stage.
Hi, Brent. I think you need a small change. You need to remove
I
the
seem to have
HPD.
lost receiving audio. I will be back in a minute.
Okay.
Hit pause.
That was convenient because I just wanted to say that he's not right on the.
La 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 la! I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
You're cutting out.
All this noise suddenly.
That's a new technique for an author to try.
It only works from your remote. Sorry, nobody in the room can get away with that. No, we're done at 5. But we have the room until 5.
We have plenty of time.
Yes, we have spare time right now.
We just need to have enough bandwidth to come back.
Last IETF, we asked for 60 minutes and got 60 minutes, and then we were rushed. This year, at this time, we said, well, then let's ask for 90, so we don't have to cut anybody off. And so we got a couple of minutes. Yeah. But we hope to not need these for much longer.
I'm back.
It's my boot on authors. Get it done. Get it done. All right, Brennan, you're back.
Hey, Brent.
Yes.
Great.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was saying that there are 2 changes that need to be made. One is the IENA consideration section says currently to be done. I don't think there is. Well, actually, there is some IENA consideration probably. The other one is the HPKE reference. I think that has to be removed. I don't think you just focus on the ephemeral static Diffie-Hellman that we talked about earlier today.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, I think that you're right. We should remove the reference to HPKE until it's stabilized.
Is that something that can be done in the next 2 weeks?
Absolutely.
Okay, let that be minuted to not forget.
And so since this is a dependency, we might want to
Lots of things are blocked.
probably run this one next in the series. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Anything else, Brendan?
I don't believe so. I think that's
Well,
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that is our planned agenda for today. Does anyone have any other business that they would like to raise? I don't think we've asked that question in a while.
Tom has that question. Take it to the list. Anything on the list that people want to take here? Open mic. Going once, twice.
All right. Well, I think we're done for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you have the next 27 minutes to go and update your document with the issues we just talked about. 27 minutes for authors to do things. Or for those of you who volunteered to review, we will be quiet in the room and you got 27 minutes to review stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be nice to clear our queue. We do.
Yeah. Do we have, because we have a couple documents here, do we have worked out who's going to be document shepherd for each of the other ones?
Yeah, we might as well assign those.
I thought we did.